Well, this is the first episode that I selected, so I get to lead off on this one. Much like, I'm not sure, I should say, unlike the last episode where I completely misremembered it, um, I had a very different view of this episode rewatching it, and I'll get into that. I picked this inspired by you, Murphy, that said, when you basically said sometimes Star Trek just has to be silly, and this was
Hmm.
one of them. Well, it turned
Yep.
out now 15 years later or 20 years later, whatever it is, I didn't see this episode as silly as I thought it was. But there are a couple of reasons I've always loved this episode. Reason number one was in this season, this was the only episode that was accepted from a fan pitch. A fan actually pitched this
Really?
idea
I had
that
no idea.
was the Ferengi at Roswell. The Ferengi were the aliens, and
Yeah.
that was the whole pitch. And of course, they expanded that out. And the scene where they're trying to get their universal translators working, and they're hitting themselves in the head, and then the humans start hitting themselves in the head. I just thought that was played for huge comic relief. I saw it a little bit differently this time. The line about you can't, even Quark says, you cannot explode a nuclear device inside an atmosphere. Even Quark knew you couldn't do that. So the insanity of nuclear weapons, the complete homage to 50 science fiction movies. I'm a huge
Oh,
50 science fiction movies fan. I love the old black and whites. So I completely enjoyed that. And then the part of, I'm going to call it the anti-smoking part, although some people saw it differently. There was a lot of smoking in this because of the time frame this happened, and you still see some smoking in movies, but not nearly as much as when everybody smoked in the 50s. And once again, I think it was Quark basically called out the humans for polluting themselves. So I
hmm.
thought that was interesting as well. But the sort of either revelation I had in rewatching to prepare for our podcast or in seeing it through a different line was I saw it as both racist and anti-racist in every way, shape, and form possible, starting at the opening scene where the Ferengi are basically having a garage sale for Nog, who's going off to be the first Ferengi candidate at Starfleet Academy. And his uncle, Quark, says, "What are you doing around these humans? You don't belong with them." Worf says, "A Ferengi at the Academy?" Worf said that. And I just thought, my gosh, how many
Yeah.
Klingons were at the Academy when you were there, Worf? Now, I don't want to contrast that to the current United States political scene, but we've got our first African American woman presidential candidate, and say
Mhm.
some horrible things are being said, and it really struck me. And the racism doesn't stop there. Quark continues to be a racist the entire episode, and part of it is making fun of humans, but part of it is, they all look alike. Well, my mother said
Yeah.
that. So I'm completely familiar with that. And I'm completely familiar with that concept. And that, struck me as well. So the racism or anti racism
Excuse me.
in this episode, I thought was incredibly poignant. The environmental aspect, the smoking part of individual accountability or individual health, whatever you might want to call it, I thought was very poignant. And it turned out there's a pretty good story in there too, because why not have the Ferengi be the aliens at Roswell? And
Oh, so
yeah,
good.
it's as good as any other story. So back to that original story, but it wasn't nearly as funny as I thought it was. And you, I think, also saw, as in a lot of science fiction, the first thing you try to do is terrorize or scare the other. They threatened to shoot the Ferengi multiple times.
Excuse me.
They threatened to do horrible experiments on them, basically cut them up and find out what made them tick. So, that was a theory or a storyline throughout the X-Files. So I thought that was pretty poignant. And you had some of the Americans actually help them escape. So that was pretty good too. So I really enjoyed this episode. I thought as we record this in the last day of July of 2024, I thought it was incredibly poignant in terms of the racism. And it wasn't nearly as funny as I remembered it being, or I don't know, maybe I've grown up. So that was kind of my initial thoughts, why I picked it and how it evolved literally as I rewatched it in preparation for this podcast.
I thought maybe I'm not as grown up as you are, Tom, because I still found it funny. This was an episode I laughed out loud several times during, because I think they were playing a lot of things for laugh. And I think, I love how, within the Star Trek universe, they do discuss the fact that there is racism against the Ferengi. I love the Ferengi's response to it is just tossing it right back. They love their culture. They're proud of their culture. And I loved in this episode how much we got to learn about it. I thought the tradition of a young man raising capital by selling his boyhood treasures, amazing. What a wonderful tiny glimpse of normal Ferengi life. I loved it. And then the details that we got about the afterlife when they thought they had perhaps died. Are we in the blessed exchequer? Why aren't we bidding on our afterlives? Are we in the world of perpetual destitution? Like, it was so interesting and it was so funny. I just found it I loved it. I thought it was great character building. And I thought it makes you understand the Ferengi a little bit more and what drives them. And these moments of their cultural life that they're proud of and delighted to be in. And one moment of that I really liked when Rom and Nog were shaking Quark down for parts of the profits from his illegal smuggling operation.
Yes.
Quark is whining, but he was so proud of Nog going for his 10%, even though he was going to Starfleet. He's like, yeah, that's still my nephew. I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved the late 40s setting, and I thought the way I thought they captured it brilliantly. Late 40s American military, not known for their acceptance, inclusion, broad-mindedness. So I think they played it straight, and it was fair the way they were playing it. All in all, super fun episode with Odo to save the day. Come on, incredible.
Murphy?
Yeah, I like this episode. For me, there's a lot of strange points that I like as a comedy episode I want to get into. The first being when Nog is having his garage sale, he's a 15, 60-year-old boy. His garage sale items consist mainly of stuff you'd find at Pier 1. Lots of odd decorative things that a 15-year-old boy wouldn't have. Lots of glass candle holders and other weird goblets. Second to that, Worf is most interested in buying Nog's used toothbrush, which I kind of love. That's amazing. Also, Odo just up and disappears. Nobody on the station is where did Odo go? Quark left, but where's Odo? Nobody's Odo's just gone. He's just gone. No one says anything. There's so many random things. Another semi-racist bit is when Kira's talking to Sisko about the ship leaving, and Sisko's all nobody warned Earth they're coming, and Kira just smiles at this. That's kind of bigoted. There's a lot. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a TOS throwback in this episode.
I did.
And that's the guy that plays the general is Charles Napier, and he was originally the hippie Adam on, I think, Way to Eden. The guitar strumming guy with the hippie group that called everybody, I think, Herbert. Yeah,
Right.
that I like. That was a nice little throwback. It's a fun episode. There's lots of little tidbits. It's good, and hearing that it was written by a fan is even more impressive. I like that a lot. You know.
So what about the other thing? And you're right, Megan, to call out the negotiation over sharing of the profits while they're on the ship. That was very cool. But what about, did Nog show, has he always had this ability as a mechanic and as an ability that he showed us to break the time warp continuum and space back 400 years or space ahead 400 years by getting some just basic atomic power? Is that something we just missed all along, or is this a fairly dramatic growth in Rom, I should say, his character?
No,
Oh,
I don't
Rob's
think it
definitely
is.
had this from the beginning.
Yeah,
You don't
Rom
think
is a
so?
sleeper agent.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But if you look at
And
past episodes, he's repeatedly robbed stuff from Quark to fix things in the bar. Like one time he opens the replicator and the thing is fixed with like a spatula. So Rom is constantly like jury rigging the hollow suites and everything in the bar to keep it running. Quark knows this but never praises him because he needs Rom to keep doing this. He keeps belittling him, and Rom keeps trying to prove himself to Quark by using his mechanical genius. When he steps out from under Quark's shadow, he becomes like the next O'Brien. But yeah, both he and Nog, like, preternaturally smart. All three of them are, but in like very different ways.
I think Rom
so
also.
two scenes.
Oh, sorry, I just
Go ahead,
I
Megan.
think Rom also, to an extent, plays Quark. Like, obviously, Quark feels like he's top dog in the family relationship, but I think Rom's real motivation is to have close connections with his family, to have good things happen for his son, and to get to tinker with machinery. And I think he gets Quark to do what he wants a significant amount of the time. At the end of the episode, when Quark's being pulled off by Odo to the holding tank, he's just smiling a little bit. He knows what's going on. He set some of these cards in motion. I think he's an understated genius.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So there were two scenes I really enjoyed, and you already hit on one of them, Megan. It's when Worf discovers the tooth sharpener. And I just thought that is so perfect for a Klingon. And he enjoys it. But the second was when Nog, Rom, and Quark are going to leave, and Nog says goodbye to Jake. We hadn't seen Jake in a bit, and he's grown about a foot since the last time we saw him. He really had a growth spurt, and he is not a head taller than Nog. He's half a body taller. But they talked about, sitting on the second level, looking down to the esplanade, and that really, I thought, was a pretty poignant scene. Recognizing they're probably both, in their mid-20s when they did this as actors. They're still playing, late teens, 18, 19, somewhere in there, and they didn't know fully. I mean, they couldn't even give each other a hug, at least there. And so they may not have known fully how to express how they felt about each other. But I thought that scene was incredibly poignant too.
There was one I loved, and it was just as they were setting off in the ship. And so this is another TOS throwback. So Kirk in the original series quotes the John Mansfield poem Sea Fever. All I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And so, of course, Quark, all I need is a tall ship and a load of contraband to fill her with.
Yeah,
that was great. Elegantly done.
It's so good.
So maybe to wrap up, I'll take the lead. As I said, I thought this was a very comedic episode. I remembered it, and there certainly were the comedy aspects. I found this whole discussions around racism to be very poignant and very on target. We had it from the Ferengi perspective, that everyone's beneath the Ferengi. We had the Klingon perspective that, oh, well, I was there by myself, but that's different. And we had the humans. So I thought that part really was great. I can't say enough about those 50 movies. I've watched them all and I continue to watch them all. So any kind of throwback to that, to my mind, is great. The fan fiction that started this whole episode, the idea for it, I just love that because that's the three of us, if it's not any of us. So I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
It had a lot more punch to it for me this time around. So I guess what were some of your final thoughts, Megan?
I'd say Final Fantasy, this was just Quark at its goofiest, while also still being pretty kind to the characters. I think they know that Ferengi culture is pretty reprehensible to most of the Federation and to most of us as viewers. But I love that they shared so much of it, and we got to see their pride in it. I really enjoyed that. So I'm always down for a Ferengi episode, and I think sending them back to beginning of the Cold War Earth, brilliant.
It's a great idea.
Murphy?
Yeah, I like it. It's one of those Ferengi episodes that I consider kind of a one-off. It does add a little bit to the overall Ferengi storyline. I mean, there's definitely, some stronger episodes where we see more cultural stuff, more stuff with the family. But I like it. We don't get a lot of episodes early on with the three of them, and this is a nice way to jump into stuff with them. Yeah, it's good. There's a few inconsistencies. I like at one point Quark is like, we're going to sell them stuff and we'll get warp technology centuries before everybody else. But that's not true in the least. The Klingons had it like 9 centuries before humans do, and humans will get it at 160 some odd years from 1947. So there's a little inconsistency, but generally for a fan story, it is quite a good script, and it's a fun episode. It brings flavor to the sauce to this season 4, so that we don't have to fully focus on Dominion and Klingon related stuff. It's quite good. Yeah, I like it. It's fun.
Well, guys, thanks for indulging me on this one. I can't wait to see what we come up with next time.